Hi, my name is Kelly Price. I am a education major in middle grades at Brenau University. I am currently taking a class called Critical and Creative Thinking, where we were assigned to reimagine 10 course words into an object that imitates the underlying meaning of the 10 words. So for my project, I considered the following. What words reflect my personal pedagogy? What is the foundation for my classroom? And what message do I want to convey to the world through interactions with my students? So for my project, I chose to go to the local thrift store and put together kind of like a 3D collage of different objects that mean each of the words into a table where two different cultures are having a meal. So on one side I have a sombrero, and on this side I have a cowboy hat and also a plate of food. So my idea behind this is that my underlying words represent communication. I want my classroom to be a place where all cultures and are celebrated, and diversity is really just a really strong passion of mine, and communicating between different people. So my first word, I actually chose intellectual curiosity, and at the top of here is a key, and I chose I chose this word because I have a natural curiosity for just the world around me. I refer to myself as a forever student all the time, because I don't think there's ever going to be a time when I don't want to learn something. Even on the break that we have, the Christmas break coming up, I'm already lining up stuff to kind of study just to prepare myself for future classes and kind of things that are just interesting to me personally outside of my schoolwork. So that was number one. And number two was perception. Let me find, my perception piece is this little board here, and it says easy peasy lemon squeezy. And I wanted to put that on the table because when I saw that, I thought, okay, you know, communication isn't easy to some people, and a lot of times it's misconstrued. So we may, some people may make it look easy, or they may, you know, we have a lot of, especially in this day and age where online everything looks perfect, and but it's not really always like that. So that was my my perception, because perception is not always easy peasy. And then for number three, I chose emotion. Perception and emotion are both influenced by our experiences and kind of what we go through, our back history. So I chose, on one side here, I have a teddy bear. I know you can't see it from here. If I pick it up, I'm afraid it's gonna fall. But I have a teddy bear, and I chose that because you know, teddy bears usually represent comfort for children. And sometimes adults may want a teddy bear. I know there are times when I want a teddy bear, but again, like perception, it's all influenced on how, emotion is influenced on how we come into the situation before we're even in the situation. So we may, at a table like this, our emotional stance may already be on guard, because we don't know what we're walking into. Our past experience has told us maybe to fear someone or something because of who they are or what they believe. So just different things like that. That is why I chose the word emotion. Number four I'm sorry, I'm going through my computer here, but number 4, I chose illusion, not to be confused with illusion. But I chose this piece, which is, it's a dolphin. It's actually a pretty common dolphin piece where the dolphins are coming out of the water. But when I saw it, I thought a fish out of water, which is a great metaphor for anybody going into a new situation, or something that they're uncomfortable with, or maybe moving to a new county for our students. So, sometimes people can feel like a fish out of water. And so I'll have to make sure that I'm constantly self-reflecting and doing the best I can to include all my students, ones that have been where I'm teaching for years, and also ones that are new and just coming in. And I really want to make sure that they feel comfortable in my classroom. And so that was where illusion came from. So number 5 was deductive reasoning. And I chose this word because the personalities are going to be different in my classroom. So they may not verbally address something that's going on at home, or they may not verbally address, problems that they're having within the classroom, just with schoolwork and everything like that. So for that one, I chose this gold piece because I need to understand that just because this looks like a gold piece, it's not actual gold. And while this may look like an illusion, for me it's deductive reasoning, because I need to say, okay, maybe this student looks like an all-star student, but they're struggling in something. Or maybe this student feels or looks, perfect and everything's fine, but maybe something else is going on. And so that's something that I need to be prepared for in the classroom, to use my reasoning skills, my deductive reasoning skills, to make sure that my students are taken care of to the best of my advantage. All right, and number 6, I also chose false cause, because to me, I feel like the whole table in itself is a false cause. Because we can look in on this and we can say, oh, they're meeting for this reason, or they're having a meeting for that reason. But really, we don't know what the situation is without actually communicating with these 2 different groups of people. So we don't want to just kind of come up with an assumption in our head of what's going on at the table, because we don't have all the details. So I did kind of leave this open, because we don't have all the details to every situation. So it's best to just, kind of leave our assumptions to ourselves. And that, for me personally, the same thing in the classroom, is that I don't know all the details of a situation with my students. I don't know all the details. Even if a parent comes to me and says, well, this is what's going on at home, I still don't know all the details of what's going on. I can't work on one side of the story. So for me, this false cause is, I can look at this situation and say, oh, a Hispanic person is having lunch with maybe a farmer, or a person, or a rancher, or something like that. Maybe there's something nefarious going on. Or I can look in this and say, oh, maybe 2 friends are having a lunch together, and that actually may not be the truth either. So let's just kind of keep our assumptions to ourselves until we have all of the details to make the best educated guess that we can. And even then, we don't have to convey our guesses to the world. We can keep some things internal. So that is why I chose false cause for this project. Number 7, I chose purpose. And I feel like a sense of purpose is important for every person out there. I feel like every person is meant to be something, do something spectacular, and I truly believe that. I don't care who the person is, I don't care where they come from, I don't care what mistakes they've made in their past. They always have an opportunity for purpose. So I chose to describe my purpose, I chose these 2 flower pots because I believe that part of my job as an educator is to plant seeds. And in those seeds, I hope that my students can learn or even try to adapt some kind of concept for themselves, to think for themselves, to really own who they may be, and kind of, even if it's just a seed of something that they want to do, I hope that I can really put that into perspective for them, at least get them on some kind of path that shows that they have purpose, because I truly do believe that everybody has purpose. For number 8, I chose the word intentional. And in my project, I chose this little servant here as my intentional piece. And the reason that I did is because I feel like that in my future classroom, I have to be intentional. And it's not just with my lesson planning and going to the meetings and doing all that, but I have to be physically and emotionally intentional with my students. I have to show that I care. I have to be there for them if they need support in an area. It may not even be in my classroom, but I have to live so in a way that is showing them that they have all the possibilities in the world given to them. So for intentional, I chose the chef here because he's a servant. He's a servant to who he is offering food to, or a servant to who he's about to serve dinner to. And I really believe that in order for me to be an effective and good teacher, that I have to be a servant to my classroom. There's always going to be boundaries that need to be set, not only with students, with parents, my employers, because I'm a huge boundaries person. However, humbleness and really just performing servitude to my classroom is what ultimately will show them the reflection of how I want them to interact with their community. And for me, I have them for a year, and that's at most. So whatever I do, I want it to be intentional in the aspect that the students are going to go out in the community and make it better. So I have to be very intentional with my philosophies and how I go about things, because I want them to make the community a better place. So, number 9, I chose the word tension. And the reason that I chose this, tension has been an aspect of the American culture since the beginning of the American culture. But for now specifically, there has been lots of tension, words misconstrued sometimes, people coming from different locations of the U.S., whether it's north, south, east, west, coast, people coming into the U.S., all of these things make America culturally diverse. And when you have that, you have so many people from so many backgrounds that it can get heated very quickly if we're not concerned with the things that we do and the things that we say. So for my project, I chose this nameplate, and I actually chose it to go on the side of where the cowboy hat is. And the reason that I did that is because maybe and this would be an assumption, but maybe the cowboy hat feels he has a purpose here. And maybe over here on the sombrero side, he doesn't. So he doesn't have a nameplate, and for me, identity really, really contributes to how well a student, a person, a community, how well and effectively that they grow. So my personal belief is that if somebody feels included at the table, so to speak, perhaps their goals will be completed a little bit more. But again, that's an assumption, because if we go over here, maybe in spite of not having a nameplate, this person does extremely well. So again, we can't look at this and assume what can happen, but we can take preventative measures to help everybody feel included at this said table. And I believe that is super important. So for my last piece, I actually chose connotation, and I chose this for, I hope, obvious reasons. I really expect that all of my students are going to speak different to each other. I expect them to speak differently to myself. So I don't want to take something that maybe is, as the youth of just the world, culturally accepted, maybe like a slang term or something like that, and really be offended by it, and then cause that heat in my classroom because I didn't understand that this is how they talk. Now, I understand personally that there's a difference between disrespect and what may be culturally accepted. And for me, there's definitely a line there. But for most of the time, what I see often is students, there's always a battle between students and the older generations. I don't want to say always, but often there's a battle between the two. And sometimes because of there's a language barrier. Actually, let's just say that. There's a language barrier between the two sometimes. And we have words that represent the youth of today, what they can, they want to convey to the world through their language, through their dress, through how they're motivated, how they do different things. And for me, that is perfectly acceptable. However, as somebody who came from a different generation, now I'm not only trying to understand culturally every single person in my classroom or every single person I come in contact with in my community, but I'm also trying to understand people that live next door to me but have come from a different generation. So there's a lot of intentional times that we can work on that. There's a lot of different ways that we can prevent tensions and just things that just come in between the classroom environment to prevent the learning atmosphere. And I think it's important for us to really plan ahead for those things if we want to have an effective classroom. Again, this is my project. All of the words come together, and I think the underlying message for me was communication. And I say that because to me, all of the words represent something that either misconstrues, contributes to, or personalizes a conversation with somebody. I really wanted to represent that this table meant people sitting down to have a meal together. But the focus is that they're different. They're different, but they're having a nice meal together. And I hope that that's what my classroom conveys, is that we're all different, but we're all in there for the same purpose, which is to be fed, ultimately. Fed with knowledge. And even myself, I have to humble myself and make sure that I understand that I too am a student and going to be learning every day along with my students. And I think that is absolutely important for the classroom environment. So I thank you very much for watching my presentation and look forward to next semester. Thank you.